Hey gang, this is Pablo Acosta from Prescient. Today I want to focus on what could be considered perhaps a little bit of a niche node that comes stock in Prescient Designer and Node-RED, which is range node. So here we are in Prescient Designer. So we'll say the premier data solution and edge data pipeline and IoT platform. And we'll take a look at the range node. The first thing that I want to mention is that it works with only numbers. So for example, if I inject ABC, let me get the debug panel there. If we inject, say, something that cannot be converted to a number, it fails silently. Perhaps not the most user-friendly thing to do, but just be aware that if the input is not a number, at least the input property that is being considered is not a number, then no message is going to come out of this range node and no error is going to be generated. But if the message property that's being considered for the range, it can be coerced into a number, say you have the string quote to unquote, then if it can be converted to a number, it will be converted to a number and it will be processed. So what are the options here? Well, so this node takes a property of the input message of your choosing, as many other nodes is defaults to payload, and then it scales it as the name. Well, actually, not the name doesn't imply that, but one of the options is to scale it from an input range, which you define the bottom of the range and the top of the range, to an output range. And again, you define the output range by a from and a to, a bottom and a top. And you have three options. In this particular case, the option selected is the default to scale, just scale the message property. So essentially, it's going to take this range and say, okay, what is the bottom of it? What is the actual range? In this case, it's 1, right, from 1 to 0. And it's going to transform it to an output range whose bottom is 0 and its top is 100. Now, bear in mind that the payload does not need to be between 0 and 1. That is to say, the input payload does not have to be within the input range. This input and output ranges are just to define the mathematical equation that's going to be applied to the number to scale it. So the other thing that you can do, the other action or mode that it has, is to scale and limit the range. In this case, it's going to be exactly the same as the previous option, except that the output number is going to be within the output range, right? So I wrote here mathematically, it's you're guaranteeing that the number for the particular ranges that are selected for this example, the output is guaranteed to be within 0 and 10 and scaled by 10. And the other option is to scale and wrap, which is kind of a modulus operation, right? So it's exactly the same as the first one. So it's going to take a number or take an input range between 0 and 1 and get it to between 10 and 0. But if the number, for example, is say it's instead of the input number, it's 5, so it's within outside of the output range, it's going to scale it, and then it's going to do a modulo, in this case 10. So if we input 5.2, if we just multiply by 10, this should be 520, right? 5.2 times 10. I did it wrong. I'm sorry, the number was 100. I should say by 10. Let me take care of that. So that's 52. Now, if we use the limit option, should be 10, and that's 10. And if we use the modules option, it should be 2, right? Because 5.2 times 10 is 52, and modulo 10 is 2. And oops, let me just turn that on. And that's 2. So to make clear what the full mathematical formula is, I'm defining here a input range from 2 to 5. That's gonna get transformed to an output range of -10 to 10. And in this case, I also taken advantage of the fact that we have an option to essentially turn the output into an integer. So if the number that we put in is the bottom of the range, the input range, say 2, we should get -10, which is the bottom of the output range. And if we input 5, we should get the top of the range. And if we get input the bottom of, the middle of the input range, so that will be between 5 and 2, so it's 3.5. 3.5, we should get 0, which is the middle of the output range. So really, the mathematical formula that's being employed is whatever property you choose minus the bottom of the input range times the output range divided by the input range, all that minus the bottom of the output range. So that's the mathematical formula that's being applied. So admittedly, this is somewhat of a niche note, but in the spirit of no code, if you just need a quick scaling and you can define the ranges, and it's easy to define the scaling by ranges, then this is Node for you. As I always say, if you have any other notes or anything that you want me to cover more in depth, leave me a comment below, and we'll consider for the next Tech Exchange. Till then, so long.